Well, Wizards, look what you made me do. You made me have to do a new video. And you know what? I wasn't sure when the next teaser reveal reaction would be. I was hoping it would be soonish, because I'd had a couple sets of no idea what to react to, because nothing felt big enough. But now, here we are. And I've got my little gremlin pup here. Mwah, I love you. And so I think it's time that I take a look at these new cards that are revealed for this set. And there's a few that I want to talk about, and I'll get to each one. So, I'm just going to jump into it. We're going to start with the reprint of Liliana of the Veil. This is the first card that I saw revealed for this set, and I just thought to myself, like, okay, this is the meta now. They've reprinted a modern staple in Standard. So we're going to see how this works out. I think it's going to be pretty strong, both with the prevalence of Rakdos midrange being a thing, with Flashback still being in the upcoming Standard set once rotation happens when Dominaria United is released. But my god, they went and did it. They straight up reprinted Liliana of the Veil. So, my thoughts, I guess. It's a 3-mana planeswalker, 1 and 2 black, enters with 3 loyalty, and with the +1, it'll have 4 loyalty, but that's fine. So, the biggest... Right now, Standard is in a very sort of aggro state. A lot of red-white, like Boros, aggro, and burn. A lot of Selesnya enchantments and like real fast growth. So I think with the prevalence of especially Boros burn just spitting out spells like a fire hose from the start of the game, Liliana of the Veil forcing the opponent to or each player to discard, I think is probably going to be pretty disruptive to that in comparison to the consistency of something like Selesnya runes, enchantments. I don't know if the +1 will do much against them, but for sure, the -2 will be effective against that. So now that I'm thinking about it, this Planeswalker reprint is probably going to be pretty solid meta counter for the current meta. That's not to say what other cards are going to be revealed for the rest of the Dominaria stuff. We don't know how the meta is going to shift immediately because, again, we don't have all the information. But yeah, the +1, discard, each player discards a card. That's going to be fine. Generally, if you're running a deck that has this, you're going to have ways to either, 1, I don't care about my discard or my graveyard. 2, I have ways to utilize my graveyard. 3, I have ways to utilize discarding. Which, since this is in Standard, in the following Standard, I would not be surprised to see within the next year or two, Madness get a reprint, and then all of a sudden, this Liliana of the Veil is oppressive. But yeah, that's the +1. The -2, target player sacrifices a creature. Aggro lists probably aren't too worried about that. Like I said, the green-white enchantment lists are probably the most worried about that part. I think also control lists occasionally are going to be maybe a little worried about that. I don't know. We got the man lands rotating out, so that's not a huge issue to worry about now. Some control lists. I know Hullbreacher, Leviathan, Hullbreaker, Leviathan, whatever, the big blue flashy one that bounces spells. That's probably not going to be too concerned about this, because any deck that runs that as like their only creature is going to be running other stuff around it, or only be able to cast it when they can protect it. A -6, you're hardly ever going to get there, because naturally with Planeswalkers. Separate all permanents target player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of their choice. Hilariously, you could do all of their lands versus all of their non-lands. That'd be funny. Or you could just separate their stuff into 2 halves. I mean, as with every ultimate, it's basically a you win the game button if this goes on too long. So if whatever black deck that plays this is able to endure for enters with 3, so you go to 4, 5, so the next turn you have 4. So enters and you +1, so it's at 4, +1, +1. If your opponent has this for 4 turns, you're doing something wrong. So yeah, Burn's going to need to target this. I don't know, just look to Modern to see what archetypes are doing around this. It is a Jund staple, so I mean, it's part of the deck that just plays good stuff anyway. So it's a good stuff thing. I don't know, we'll see. I know, there's another Planeswalker I need to talk about. I know, I'm gonna get there. But next up, we're going to talk about my next reaction, which... Holy shit. Jhoira, Ageless Innovator, a blue and a red, 2 mana, a blue and a red, for a 2/3 legendary creature human artificer. Immediately, solid stat line. Anything that is a better than a 2 mana 2/2, gonna be solid. Add on to that, it has an activated ability. Tap. Put 2 Ingenuity counters on Jhoira Ageless Innovator. Then you may put an artifact card with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield, where X is the number of Ingenuity counters on Jhoira. Okay. Immediately in my mind, I think of Ether Vial. You tack a counter on, play a thing for free. Tack a counter on, play a thing for free. Artifacts, in general, have huge power. This is a very powerful card. I'm pretty sure it's going to have places in formats outside of Standard. It's going to be huge in Commander, because duh. This is going to be probably impactful in Modern. I bet it's going to have bigger places in, like, Legacy and Historic. Coming from the context of, I don't play those formats. I don't know those formats that well, so let me focus on Standard a bit. With the first tick, there's so many 2-mana artifacts that you can just slam down. This could be decent in vehicles. You can get down Mobilizer Mech. Patrick Automaton would be pretty good, but that is casting artifact spells, and this just puts it onto the field. Reckoner Bankbuster is 2-mana value. Like, woof. Reality Chip is pretty decent. You can slam down a Virus Beetle, which would be fine. So there's a lot of 2-mana artifacts that are pretty impactful as soon as you can get that down, at least in Standard. As far as going to 3 or 4, third turn this thing is out. So here's the thing. The card pool for Standard at the moment isn't necessarily big enough or impactful enough to really bother with playing Jhoira, because she's probably going to get removed pretty immediately. There's plenty of stuff that deals 3 damage or just gets rid of creatures, and she doesn't have haste. That's what would really put this card over the top, is if she had haste. Whoa. So if you have a way of giving something haste, or, for example, Kumano faces Kakazan, if you put that down on turn 1, turn 2, you can get Jhoira out as a 3-4 for 2 mana. That's a great rate. Then the next turn, start slamming down 2-mana artifacts, which it just says an artifact card. This could be an artifact creature that you're just slamming down. I could see this working in some sort of creature-y, artifacty burn, especially with Twin Shot Sniper being around as the 4-mana hit. You got Surge Hacker Mech. Oh my god, can you imagine Jhoira being slammed into a vehicle deck? Holy cow, that would be hilarious. You got Reckoner Bankbuster. You got the one that crews another when it gets crewed. You got Surge Hacker Mech. You got all of these other artifact creatures. And then eventually you get up to like the 5 and 6s, and there's not a ton there. Maybe Dollhouse of Horrors. Ironhoof Boar is 6, but again, that's And it's at that point where, like, how likely is it that Jhoira is going to live that long? Unless you're playing around with counterspells and stuff. Because Jhoira does essentially save you mana. She does essentially ramp you here. So long as she stays out. And so long as you have the artifacts to put down. But in red and blue, it's not hard to have cards in hand. So, I guess the more I'm talking about her, she does seem, in Standard, to be like a bit of a trap. She doesn't have haste for the immediate reward. She doesn't have any sort of regular protection beyond having a bigger toughness for the rate. So I don't know, maybe I'm a little bigger on her than I think I should be. However, the card pool for Standard for artifacts is pretty limited. The card pool for Modern, Legacy, Vintage, Commander? My god, this Jhoira could be busted. Real strong. Real strong. Okay, it's time. It's time. I gotta talk about him. Ajani, Sleeper Agent. Wizards, you did it again. They completed another Planeswalker. Not only that, they completed another Planeswalker in the Story Circle. Story Circle. Ajani and Tamio are now both Phyrexian. Which, I don't know the timeline separation between Kamigawa and Dominaria United. I don't know how far apart those are timeline-wise, but it does make sense that Tamio getting completed in Kamigawa, sure, then knows, hey, I've got a few people that trust me. Let's get them on my side. So she either calls a Story Circle or just joins a regular meeting, and yoink! Ajani, you're big and strong. You'd be very powerful on my side. And Phyrexianizes him. And then he understands now. It's his duty. It's his responsibility to perfect the planes. I'm especially scared because now I'm pretty sure they're probably going to have Phyrexians be this sort of Bant kind of faction. Because we've already got the green-blue Planeswalker from the Story Circle, Phyrexianized. We've now got the white-green Planeswalker from Story Circle, Phyrexianized. I don't want them to Phyrexianize in our set! Please don't complete in our set! I love Tarkir so much, don't complete in our set. Oh, man. Completing Tamio was a huge surprise. One, because it was unprecedented, they'd never done something like that before, but two, because she was such a beloved character that hadn't had nearly as much screen time as any of the other Planeswalkers that were loved to her level. Ajani has been around since planeswalkers existed as a card type. He was the first mono-white planeswalker card. He's been around forever. And with good reason. He's a popular character, he's really strong, and he's a fan favorite, really. Buddy. Alright, let's talk about the card. Ajani, Sleeper Agent. 1, a green, a Phyrexian Selesnya hybrid, and a white. So this means with the completed tag that Tamio also had, the green-white Selesnya hybrid, Phyrexian hybrid, can be paid with green, white, or 2 life. If life was paid, it enters with 2 fewer loyalty counters. That's fine. So this could be another 3-mana planeswalker. It would come in with 2 loyalty instead of 4, which is fine. It's understandable. Pretty aggressive rate for what it does, because +1, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature or planeswalker card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, you may put it on the bottom of your library. So if you're getting this down on turn 3, you want to be in a creature deck anyways, because you want to have stuff out to protect it if you're getting this out early. If you're getting it out late, you probably already want 1 or 2, maybe 3 creatures on board, because then you can use the -3 to actually buff the creatures up. So the -3, distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among up to 3 target creatures. They gain vigilance until end of turn. If you put this down on turn 3, you +1 to get a creature or planeswalker. This Ajani, as with most of the more recent Ajanis, is going to be fantastic in a planeswalker like Super Friends style deck. And there is actually precedent set for a Bant Super Friends deck in Standard, I think. I think there's certainly opportunity for that, especially considered the counter synergies, Broker's Ascendancy that just stacks counters on. There's 100% precedent for that. So being able to just either get a creature or planeswalker, or just bin it to try and get to something useful, that's solid. That's really solid. So the +1 is card advantage. Beautiful. -3, putting 3 counters among up to 3 target creatures. So you can stack 3 on top of 1 creature. You can put 1 on each of 3 creatures. You can put 2 on one and 1 on another. Whatever the case, each one that gets counters this way gets vigilance until end of turn. So we can attack and still hold back to block. So immediately this thing activates any modify keywords from Kamigawa cards. Immediately it allows for your creatures, like I said, they can attack and still hold back to block. This is Ajani, you put it out on turn 4, and as long as you've got like a creature or 2 out, you'll still have something back to protect it, and your creatures grow. It's beautiful. It's conditional self-protection that most planeswalkers need, but it's conditional. So I mean, you gotta have creatures out already. And then the -6, again, as with most planeswalkers, the ultimate is basically a you win the game thing, because if it's an emblem, you're never going to be able to get rid of an emblem. Those things stay forever. At least for now, until they find ways to remove emblems. If an ultimate is just a one-off effect, generally it's pretty freaking effective. This -6, you get an emblem with, whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker spell, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. Whoa! I think this probably looks scarier than it's actually going to play out. That said, this is going to go in a deck that plays Broker's Ascendancy. It's just going to. So you're going to accelerate the rate that your creatures are growing. Let's play this out. Turn 1. Oh no, there's not going to be a Jasper Sentinel. Okay. I don't know, turn 1 play land. Turn 2 play... Oh, Innkeeper's gone too. Okay. There is a mana ramper at 2 mana from Crimson Vow. So turn 2, play that, and turn 3, you got Ajani on 4. Or, you could get Broker's Ascendancy out. Turn 2, mana ramper. Turn 3, Ajani at 4, and you can +1 him. Next turn, you get the Broker's Ascendancy out, and you've got an extra 2 mana to do something. Probably remove or protect something, because Mysterious Absence, what is that card? Sudden Absence or something? You can just get rid of something to protect it. Turn 3 comes out with 4 loyalty, you +1 him, he's at 5. Next turn, you +1 him again to get him to 6, Broker's Ascendancy, and then you can ultimate the following turn. So you can get this thing ultimated in 3 turns and still have plenty of protection for him, because Tamio's safekeeping is a thing that exists. Yeah, there is absolutely precedent for there to be a deck that wants to ultimate this guy as quickly as possible. And boy howdy, I am so intrigued at the thought of that now. But yeah, there is a place for a Bant Super Friends Phyrexian Super Friends deck. And I'm excited. Lore implications. Like I said, they're probably gonna complete the entire story circle. I wouldn't be surprised if within the next year or so, we have a return to Tarkir. Because to my knowledge, we don't have the next sets revealed beyond Brothers War, right? Whoa! What are all these? Oh, hold the phone. I am just learning about something. 2023 sets. Oh shit! Okay! News coming to me. Schedule we now know. Thank you, Matt Bowser, for this article. Climax of a multiverse-shaking showdown with the Phyrexians. After all that heavy stuff, we get to revisit a couple of the most colorful magic. Okay. Collected the available release dates of every 2023 set into the schedule just as we did. Okay. Exact release details for the upcoming sets. So mystery right now. We compile information. Okay. 4 premier MTG sets to look forward to. Phyrexian All Will Be One. March of the Machine. Wilds of Eldraine. The Lost Caverns of Ixalan. So multiple upcoming universes beyond it. Blah, blah, blah. MTG Lord of the Rings. I don't care. So, I'm just looking at the names. Let me consider what I'm going to say before I really process what's happening here. We have right now, we're facing Dominaria United. That's the set that's coming out right now. That is the summer set for this year. The final set this year is the fall set, which will be the Brothers War, which, from what we know, is basically just a flashback set for the Urza Mishra War, which is an old lore thing. So it's going to be cool to see all that in modern time. There is theorizing that that's going to be like a time travel set, kind of like Fate Reforged was, where all theory, all speculation, where Karn is going to go back in time to the Brothers War to get something so that they can use that to fight against the Phyrexians in the present timeline. That's just conjecture, which could be interesting. I think it's a bit of a stretch. I think it's just going to be a flashback set as advertised. But that's the fall set. That's the final mainline set for this year is Brothers War. Then we have Phyrexia All Will Be One as the winter set to start off next year. Whew! Okay. So that's going to take us back to... So this is not even new Phyrexia, which would have been Mirrodin. No, this is Phyrexia, which, from here on out, purely speculation on my part. It is possible that they have dropped the new from the moniker for the plane and just said, you know what, this is Phyrexia now. That is possible. It looks like... So Phyrexia All Will Be One, be a one-off set. And that, I'm guessing, is probably going to be... I have no idea. I'm trying to speculate here. I have no idea what that's going to be. But it's going to be sick. It's going to be horrifying. It's going to be gorgeous. Phyrexia All Will Be One. Interesting. And then spring, the second mainline set for next year, March of the Machine, followed by March of the Machine Aftermath, which I'm imagining is going to be very similar to how they did Innistrad Midnight Hunt, Innistrad Crimson Vow. It's going to be a 2-piece set, which March of the Machine seems to be essentially, to my guess, seems to essentially be the War of the Spark for this storyline. And then Aftermath, sure, we get an epilogue to the whole Phyrexian thing. And then, there's going to be teases. Maybe we still got the Phyrexian oil somewhere. It's because you got to hold stuff like that. And then, that's the end of that major war storyline, which, for someone who wasn't around, considering myself, for someone who wasn't around for the old Phyrexian stuff, for someone who wasn't around for Mirrodin Besieged and the whole new Phyrexia storyline, it seems pretty short. Especially since I was around for all the Eldrazi stuff. Well, I guess that was a 2-part thing, too. Well, because there was the Gatewatch against the Eldrazi, and that was a whole thing that lasted all of 4 sets. There was the Nicol Bolas stuff, which lasted a really long time, which was like Amonkhet, I guess Kaladesh, Amonkhet, kind of Ixalan, and then Dominaria into all the new Ravnica stuff. So that lasted like a good year. 2 years maybe. And then this is lasting about a year if we're including Kamigawa. But they have all other stuff. I don't know. It just seems short for this huge villain arc that they're doing here. So March of the Machine, Aftermath. It's going to be, I'm assuming, culmination of that. And then we get Wilds of Eldraine. So a return to an Eldraine set. Hopefully balanced. I loved the flavor of Eldraine so much. And I'm so happy we're going to be coming back to it so soon. And then after that, the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Which is another plane that I just adored. So the last 2 sets for next year are going to be Wilds of Eldraine, Lost Caverns of Ixalan. That's going to be cool. At the same time, I want to go back to Tarkir. The thing I was worried about when I decided in this video to look what are the upcoming sets is I was worried about Narset getting completed, because we do have the second member of the story circle completed here. So I was thinking, like, if there's a Tarkir set next year, then we probably see that happen. There's still a chance to see more completed planeswalkers in March of the Machines, in Phyrexian All Will Be One. I'm imagining we're going to see All Will Be One have a bunch of completed planeswalkers, and then following up with even a few more in March of the Machines. Oh my god. Oh, I'm excited now. Oh, that's going to be cool. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I'm going to do today. Now I just got to full on edit this video and put it up. We got a lot of stuff to look forward to.